Be honest with yourself out there, folks. Do you love your life? Do you like where you're at? Do you enjoy what you're doing every day, where you're heading in life? And if so, maybe you can turn this episode off, but only if you can say that you're truly content with the things in your life and where your life is heading, and only if you're confident that the direction you're heading in your life is one you intended on setting for yourself, not just because you think it's what you're supposed to do, because it's what you're meant to do. I'm Aaron.
I'm Cass.
And this is Fuck the Plan, the ADHD Project podcast. So I wake up in the mornings every day and I genuinely love my life. That's not saying every day is great, of course. I have moments daily, though, where I stop and I realize, you know what? I kind of have everything that I've really wanted if I stop and think about it. Even though life is difficult and I'm not exactly where I want to be yet with many things, I know that I'm heading in the right direction. So think about that context and ask yourself again, the same questions. Do you love your life? Do you like where you're at or where you're heading? Do you enjoy what you're doing? And to take it a step further, does your life and the things that you do every day light a motivational fire within you, to drive you to do what you're doing? And I'm not necessarily talking about money, though I have everything I need financially. I'm not, I don't have huge piles of Scrooge McDuck style gold coins, but I'm not talking about status symbols. Those are for other people. That's not for you. I'm talking about not hating what you do for like the roughly 20% or 25% of your life that you spend at a job if you work 40 hours a week.
I think it's probably more than 25%.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking waking hours, but I mean all hours. But still, so let's do an experiment, Cass. So tell me, why do you work?
Have to.
Why?
Living is expensive, and it's not something that I signed up for.
Right. So you need money, right? And why do you need money, Cass?
To survive, to eat, to have a roof over my head, to provide for my dog.
Great. So these are all great things. There's nothing wrong with that. But for so many of us, that's our first answer. And it's a sign that you, in some way, not with everything, of course, but you're living reactively in a bit of a sense. So most people will answer that way. They'll say, well, I need money. I need money to live my life, to be able to do this. So that's why I have the job that I have now. I'm not personally passionate about customer service in investments.
No.
But it's my day job and I need it to live, right? So there's value in that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a job and pay your bills. But what I'm saying is there a way we can get to the point in life where that's not your answer? Where your answer is something different. This is our motivation. It's the same reason we go to college. We pursue a career. We try and become a store manager or head of a department or a head chef. And we need money. And sometimes if you feel like you need more of it, we feel an obligation to move up this ladder, so to speak, in life to get more of it. And it's not really the life you truly want, is it? It's a reaction to the circumstances you find yourself in. So in a perfect world, Cass, if needing money to live wasn't your primary motivation, what would you do with your life every day?
I would be, oh my God, what wouldn't I do? I would be writing more and I would have the energy to do so. And I would be ideally doing something on stage, Broadway. I'd maybe still have a band and we'd be touring. I'd be making money through performance.
Right. So those are the things that drive your passions, right? Those are the things that you actually care about. Not, working a job, not doing customer service, not doing delivery for Amazon, okay? I don't think you're a passionate person about getting in and out of a van 500 times a day, are you?
Be real weird if I was.
Yeah, very, very weird. That's like, free candy kind of weird there, Cass. Like, come on.
It's a van.
But like, a lot of times we find ourselves like behind the 8 ball in life, right? Like you feel like you have to get out from whatever is under weighing you down. You have to get out from under whatever is weighing you down. So a good example is like the first time we moved out of our parents' house, right? When you were working your gas station job, were you still living at home?
Yes.
Okay. And then after you left that, when you eventually got a better job, what did you do? You moved out, right?
Yep. Pretty damn quickly.
Okay. And years and years later, we've come to realize that job was not exactly what you wanted to do.
No.
And it made you absolutely fucking miserable, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, there's some merit to the fact that it enabled you to get out of your parents' house. But going back in time, would you have waited an extra 5 years to get out of your parents' house if it meant that from then on you'd be acting and writing and performing for a living?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't we start with that? Part of it is because we're not taught that at a young age. But why don't we start with proactively thinking of what we want to be doing with our lives and intentionally doing things, doing it on purpose? So I kind of stumbled into my career field from my day job of working in investments. I didn't necessarily proactively and intentionally go out and do that.
We both did.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's what I needed to live. And we're in a society and an environment where you kind of, I don't want to say it's necessity to do that, but I want to say that if you want to move forward in your life, you have to find some way of getting to an income level to do that, right?
Yes.
But I think a lot of us looking back have had some experiences, and it's funny to talk about this right after the last episode where we talked about how experience serves you well, even if you didn't love what you were doing at the time. But it's all leading up to something of figuring out what you want to do and then finding a way to work towards that. And so many people never do it. Over the last few years in my life, I've realized that, working for corporate America in the investments world is not what I want to do. So I've started intentionally and proactively taking steps to move towards the kind of lifestyle that I want. And I think people don't always realize how easy it is to start that, or how, I shouldn't say easy because it's not always easy. It's a simple concept to think of, all right, what do I really want to be doing with my life? It's not this. And so if you realize you find yourself in a position where you say, hey, it's definitely not this. This is not what I want to be doing with your life. You've got to start to take some intentional, proactive steps away from whatever is dragging you down, right?
Well, it's strange, like, especially in the U.S., I'm American. I can only really speak from an American point of view. As kids, we are told, shoot for the stars. You can be anything you want to be. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
Then all of a sudden you hit college age and people are like, do you really want a degree in musical theater?
Yes.
Maybe go into something else. And all of this build up to try and be anything that you want goes away as soon as there's a dollar sign attached to getting there.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my favorite Disney movies is Monsters University because it shows that you can still end up where you want even if you don't take the conventional path.
Right. And
they get kicked out of college and they still end up where they wanted to. It just took a lot more work.
Yeah. And those of us with ADHD often don't take the conventional path to getting places. As a matter of fact, we're almost the only subset of people that can walk that completely off the wall, unconventional, like change the world type of path. And I don't mean that, if you don't have ADHD, you can't be successful. But what I'm saying, if you look at a lot of people who are successful, this is a very common trait, is that the people who were able to do something differently than everybody else were the ones who stood out and were able to make carve a path for themselves. And we're uniquely tailored to do that in our brains. And the biggest difference and the biggest commonality that I'm seeing here is we all know what would solve the problem in the long term, right? In a lot of ways. Money, yes, but the problem of I don't like my job, I would rather be writing can be solved by writing. Okay? That's a simplification, but you need to do the thing that you want to do and practice it and get better at it and break into it because it's not just going to happen overnight.
Right, and that actually leads me to what I was about to say, which is there's an element of compromise in this.
Right.
I'm the job that I do, which is the hosting the events, the trivia and all that.
Right.
That's a form of performing.
Yeah.
You get up in front of people, you MC, you have energy, you allow people to have fun, you make people smile for a couple of hours. Am I Janis Joplin? Am I Debbie Harry? No, but I play her on stage.
There's a debate there.
Anyone who's seen the Blondie tribute band. But no, I'm not necessarily making my living doing exactly what I want to do, but I'm still able to make income performing. And for now, I can be okay with that. And I
Right.
can still work on what I want to do, but at least I'm doing something more related to what I want than selling investments.
Right. And, theoretically, you could reactively just say, well, my Amazon delivery job pays me the most money. So I'm just going to double my shifts there. And then I'll be able to move to, a bigger house and have the life. Right. But you're going to be miserable.
Yep.
Instead, what you're doing.
I'll be ripped as shit.
Oh, hell yeah. I don't want to be ripped. I just don't want to pass out on vacation. That's my whole workout motto. But
Solid.
whatever. But yeah, so you made me laugh. I'm losing my train of thought there. But if you just resign yourself to doing what needs to be done, yes, there's value for that in the short term, but you at the same time are intentionally and proactively pursuing your dreams and your goals in the meantime. And I don't think that it needs to be one or the other. I think there's got to be some room for both, because what happens is a lot of times we fall, especially with ADHD, lack of dopamine. We want to take the easier path internally in our brains. It would be easy for me to say, you know what, I'll just reduce my lifestyle, or I'll stop chasing my goals and my dreams, because we get so beaten down by the system that, like you said, everybody is in, and they start saying, are you really going to be an actor? And it's like, well, yeah, I am. Like, shit, somebody's got to be. Like, we get so disheartened and we water these things down and try and just take a sip or two to get a glimpse of it here or there. Like you might, for example, maybe you'll just do community theater on the side and have fun with it and go back to working your Amazon delivery job. And for a lot of people, that's enough. That's totally cool. If you are happy with your life as it is, if you have a boring 9-to-5 office job that you don't really like, but it's fine, it doesn't piss you off too much, it pays your bills, it gives you the lifestyle you want, and then on the weekends you go and do dance. Okay, that's great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, it's the whole point is crafting a life that makes you happy.
Right.
If that's something that makes you happy, hell yeah.
Right.
You're doing, I believe that that's how we can measure success. And are we happy with where we're at?
Exactly.
Yes. I think that that's a successful life.
Right. And for me, and for, I suspect, a lot of people with ADHD, that doesn't cut it for me.
Right.
That drives me absolutely fucking insane to sit and spend 40 hours of my time every week doing some bullshit for somebody else when I could be out there doing something that I think changes the world in a big way, which is focusing on the ADHD project or other things that I want to do with my time. I want to be in an RV with my wife and my cat, traveling the world and the country and seeing everything there is to see. And the fact that I have to be bogged down by 40 hours a week of fucking nothingness drives me so bonkers. I could not explain it to you how much it kills me to have to work for somebody else for 40 hours a week. And if my boss is listening, I love you, dude. It's not you, okay?
It's not you, it's
seriously,
me.
It's like I have the greatest boss that I've ever had. Well, one of the greatest bosses that I've ever had. But at the same time, that life just doesn't do it for me in my brain. And doesn't it make you upset sometimes, Cass, that there's a whole world out there just begging to be explored and a life that's to be lived and something calling you out there, but you are sucking up to corporate because you won't be able to make your rent payment if you don't?
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I realized. Like, I've taken a lot of really long, cool road trips. And one of them happened to line up because I was on medical leave from work and I had the time and I was still getting paid. Or last year, the pirate one that I took with just me and Appa.
I like the theme.
Yeah, I was unemployed and I had the free time and I had the unemployment checks coming in. But I knew returning to the 9-to-5 life, I was never able to do that because it's secure. But when the hell are you going to get 3 or 4 weeks off at a time to just drive around?
Yeah.
Never.
It's like, what are you doing it for if you're not actually getting to enjoy your life?
Exactly. And I realized how important those trips were and how much I would grow. And that's part of why I jumped to having just a bunch of part-time jobs, because you know what? You can just say, I'm unavailable for a month and go. But the problem is you're not getting those paychecks.
That's true. But, it's funny because I was just talking to Vinny about this before we got started today. Is like, if you're doing all of this work and doing all of these things and then you never get to actually have the experiences that you want or get the payoff, then what the fuck are you doing it for? What is this all for? What are you working towards if you're not doing anything with it, And like, again, I get it. If boring is what you want, that's super duper valid. I really don't want to like discredit
It does sound
that.
a little judgmtal by calling it boring.
Look, no. When I say boring, I mean like uneventful.
Conventional.
So not even conventional. What I'm getting at is like, I know a lot of people and some people that I'm very close with who struggle seriously with anxiety. And sometimes the fear of the unknown of what's going to happen, is my quiet Saturday going to get interrupted with bullshit? Is there going to be some catastrophe, some medical issue, some health thing that is going to have to worry me?
Sure.
I'm not going to be able to go to work this week. And if I'm not able to go to work this week because I'm sick, then I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. And if I can't pay my bills, then I don't have anywhere to live. And if I don't have anywhere to live and blah, and it's a spiral. So sometimes boring, meaning predictable, is a good thing. And
yes.
I don't necessarily think that that's bad. I think if your goal is to have a predictable, straightforward life where you go to your job and you come home and nothing like bad is going to happen because you know what's happening, there's totally value to that. But my brain doesn't work that way. And a lot of us with ADHD, we need excitement. We need unpredictability, spontaneity, and things like that. And yes, there are times where I would like things to be predictable. Like, for example, I would love to be able to predict whether or not I'm going to be able to get my meds every month without having to call 5 fucking pharmacies.
I hear that.
So boring can be good in a way. I don't say boring with a negative connotation. I say boring to mean uneventful and predictable. And that's really awesome if you found that. But if you are hating everything that's happening for 40 hours out of the week just so you can have that, you need to know that there's other options out there. You need to know that what I think everybody should do is to have a good long think about what you want to do with your life and think about, in a perfect world, what your answer to the question of why do you work would be. Maybe you want that answer to be so I can pay my bills so that way I can spend as much time with my kids as possible. Super valid, all right? If you're totally cool with your job 40 hours a week and it gives you the lifestyle you want with your children or family or whoever, I'm all for that. But at the same time, if you want your answer to be something like make a difference in the world, pursue something creative, write a play. If you want your answer to be because I have things in me that I need to get out and contribute to the world, then you should give up on the idea of boring and take a little bit of a step into the unknown and say, well, what would happen if I could make my life that way?
Yes. And I will say what we said in the first episode, which is you and I definitely were in a position where we could. I know like people who have kids and families, there's
Right.
much more of a financial obligation there.
Yeah.
But, jumping into this whole a million part-time jobs things,
Yeah.
it's exactly what you were saying. I don't like every day to be the same.
Right.
And I like waking up and being like, oh, I'm Wonder Woman today and tomorrow I'll be delivering and the next day I'm going to be, hosting this podcast.
Yeah.
And, it's cool because I don't get bored. And even doing the delivery job multiple times a week, it's a different experience every day.
Something different every day, yeah.
Weather, route, whatever. And I'm not going to lie and say that everything is great. There is a health insurance element that I sorely miss from our old job.
It's true.
Just like you, trying to navigate this healthcare system is a pain when you need medication every month. But you have to adjust. And like I said, you have to make these compromises where it's like, am I Adina Menzel right now? No. But horseshoes and hand grenades, you get as close as you can and you start working. And when you're in these communities, even if you're not getting paid for it at the moment, you start networking.
And building that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it can happen little by little, like that,
Yes.
for example, Like my mom wants to start a cleaning business. And so she's starting little by little to gain clients and to be able to get enough people to where she can say, all right, now I know starting this month I'll have enough income coming in that I can leave my job, which, I mean, she makes pretty decent money. What she does, it's enough to, support her. But she doesn't like working there. And if you don't like working there, you don't have to be beholden to whatever other jobs are out there. She said, I like cleaning. Physically, I like it. I don't mind. My mom, I think, by the way, undiagnosed ADHD. That's where I get it from. Yeah. But at the same time, like, she found something that's more suited to her and how she works, and she's taking steps to get there. And my mom, she has a lot of responsibility in her life, and she helps care for my brother a lot because he's had some health issues as of late. She supports herself. You know what I mean? Not, to make a long story short, it's been just her for a long time. But at the same time, she has realized I can't live like this anymore because it's opposite to my values and the things that I care about. So I need to figure out a way that I cannot do this anymore and still have what I need. And like, wouldn't it make much more sense instead of figuring out like, oh, you're 17, you better go to college and pick a good major so you can have a good job. And a kid looks at a list and he goes, doctor, 100K a year. All right, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer.
100K a year is actually on the low end for that now.
Yeah, you point at high-paying jobs and you pick one and you go to college for it, and then you figure out what it's really like. Wouldn't it make so much more sense to think like, okay, what activities do I like doing? What daily life would be good for me? And then say, all right, based on this, what kind of lifestyle do I want? How much money do I need? And what activities do I like doing? How can I figure out what sort of life or career paths support those two things?
And this is why I firmly believe that people should take a gap year.
Yeah.
You should graduate high school, then take a year, explore, meet new people, see new things, because then you can come back a year or two later and say, I know myself.
Yeah.
Outside of this forced community of high school. I know who I am and what I want out of life. The money I'm going to be indebted the rest of my life for will not be wasted.
Yeah. Doesn't it make much more sense to figure out what you want to do and how you want to live your life first, and then figure out how to do that, rather than just like pick a random career because of a dollar sign you saw on a piece of paper and then figure out how to actually enjoy it?
Yeah.
There's lots of people who get lucky and that's what they want to do. I have relatives and cousins who are engineers and who went to school and immediately came out of school and started making good money. They like what they do. And that's all well and good. But I know a lot of people who went to school and spent a lot of money and started this job, what they thought they wanted to do, and realized they absolutely hate it and they cannot do the day-to-day work of it. And then they end up just not using that career or that degree that they've spent all of this time, energy, and money earning. I read in an article from the Wall Street Journal, 50% of people who have college degrees do not use them.
Yeah.
Dude, a 50-50 shot? That's fucking bullshit.
That is bullshit.
All right? I thought maybe 20%, 15, but if you go to school, you got like a 50-50 shot of never, ever using that again. It might be a waste, And I know we just got done having an episode talking about how experiences are not always a waste. But if you figured out that your entire life is going to be based on something different, don't you want that money back in your pocket?
Right. If the crippling debt that comes out of that experience is negatively impacting your entire future, that's a problem.
Yeah. And that's a lesson that sucks to learn the hard way. Shouldn't we be teaching people from a younger age the right way to go about things? Because the idea of like, well, you just need to pick a career that pays well and then figure it out because that's all that's out there.
Yeah. But
that
dream big when you're a kid.
that died in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, it's not like that anymore. Okay. The world is different and we need to change with it. We can't just continue to follow the same old bullshit advice. And I say this all the time. Like, I think this, I guess, all the time, and I say it here or there, but why does every generation do what they do? What do they want to give to their kids? And I know that you don't want to have kids. That's notwithstanding. But for a moment, imagine that you do have kids. Most of the time, parents' goals is that they want their kids to have a better life than they had. Wouldn't you agree that that's probably what you would want for your kids?
And I can think of my step niece and my step nephews.
Yeah. Or your parents, they want you to have a better life. I remember my late father, when I was working with him years ago, he used to joke to some of the people, because we worked with our hands on cars and things. He would say, oh yeah, I have my son with me today. I want him to see what it's like to have to work for a living, so he never wants to do it. And I chuckled at it then, but now I get it's like, if our parents and our parents' generation and the generation before them spent all of their energy and effort and time trying to build a life to where their children can have a better life than they do, and then we go out and do the same stupid shit. Isn't that a slap in their face? Like, aren't you literally like punching your mom in the nose and saying like, screw you, I know you worked so hard so I wouldn't have to. I'm going to go repeat the same damn shit that you did.
Well, it's interesting because I kind of had the opposite experience where, you know, my dad's always had, you know, go fly child with me. But my mom, not so much.
Right.
And when I was unemployed last year and trying to figure out what my next step was, she did not support all the changes I was making.
Oh.
She would constantly, I don't know if she thought she was being subtle, but like she definitely wasn't. She would send me links to like investment interviews on LinkedIn and like, hey, they're hiring.
That's a good point, because I don't think that the generation always really gets that nowadays either. Like I don't think understand what I just said either.
Yeah, and I think that her intention was good.
Yeah.
She's like, you need health insurance, you need stable money, here's this. And I love you, Mom, but I said, fuck you.
Yeah.
And I did my own thing. And thank God I did. And she sees how happy I am now.
And that's exactly my point. I've been writing about this for the book that I'm working on. But, you know, my dad was right about me not, you know, having to work as hard, but not in the way that he was right, or that he thought he was right.
He couldn't predict how times would change.
He hounded me to go to school, and I don't mean that he was mean or anything, but like every time I saw my dad for years before he passed, I was like, hey, you signed back up for school yet? You going back to college yet? And I don't want you to have to work so hard as I did. I want you to have an easier time. And he was exactly right, but not in the way that he thought he was right. He thought that going to school and getting a better job was going to fix my problems, but not having a job is what I'm shooting for in life. You know, like an income is different from a job, and that's why I'm being a little silly here, you know, saying job. But at the same time, like, I think that he was exactly right. I don't need to work as hard as he did. I just need to work differently. And the solution for a lot of people is go to college. But for me, that's not, you know, like I tried it. I dropped out of the same community college 2 times. I'm in an exclusive club on that one. But like, it's not that a better job is the answer. It's that we have the freedom now in this day and age to figure out what works for us and find or carve out a path within that. It's as easier than it's ever been to do that. There's you know the game Cards Against Humanity?
Of course.
Everybody does, right? So the people who started that are hilarious. Like,
oh my God, they're amazing.
They thought it was a funny thing to do, and they made this game and they started selling, and it really took off. One of my favorite things that they ever did was they put an item on their web store, right, on their store for the website that was like, it was literally called nothing. It was, and the description was like, give us $5. You won't get anything in return. We will not mail you anything. You're just giving us $5. And so many people bought it. They were like, yeah, sure, here you go, $5. Like, my point is, if it's so easy that you can just put something up there and be like, give me $5 for no reason, then you can figure out a way to make money.
People respect the honesty.
Exactly.
They're like, you know what? You could have made some shit up. You're being real. Here's $5.
You know, the band Wolfpack, I love them. They're kind of like a funky, like weird type of band, but not for everybody, but a lot of musicians really like Wolfpack. So one of the things that they did is they broke Spotify. So they put on Spotify, if you're not a musician, you might not know, but you get paid almost farts. You get paid like nothing for your music on Spotify.
Awful.
So what they did is they recorded an album that was like an hour long of absolute blank. It was nothing. It was just white. It was not even white noise. It was complete silence. And they sent messages to all their fans, and they reached out to all of them, and they said, put this album on repeat overnight while you sleep so we can make money to produce a real album.
I love that.
Exactly. And it broke Spotify. They had to change the rules. They stopped it. Like, they caused such a huge uproar that Spotify like completely changed their policies and all of this stuff. And that actually ended up kind of putting them on the map, and they're huge in that space right now. A lot of people I've met who aren't musicians don't know the band by name, but they have been in Target commercials, Apple, like all of these huge companies have their music in like TV commercials and all this stuff. And they were really put on the map because they decided to say, you know what, play this song of absolute nothing for hours overnight, and it'll give us the money to make it. And the point of that and the other story is that there's so many creative, interesting, funny, different, weird things that you can do that there is almost zero point in doing something you don't want to do. Okay.
Yep.
My point is not to bash people who have a 9 to 5 job, because so many, like, theoretically, if I wanted that kind of a lifestyle, I really don't mind my day job at all. I like it. It works with my skills. It's easy enough for me, but challenging in the ways that I want it to be. If it paid me a little bit more money, then maybe, and if I could work remotely forever, then that might be a good long-term play for me. But I have different motivations and desires inside. And I don't think that people should shove those things down, to the bottom if you have something else you want to do. Because I want you to live a life that's fulfilling, not one that just gets you by.
I think a lot of what we've said so far translates very well and motivates very well people who are younger, people who are college age. But I want to shift and talk about age in all of this.
Yeah.
I think sports is a great example. You hear them, they're like, "Ooh, and this person is 29. How is he still doing it?" And it's
right?
29's not old.
Yeah, right? It's like the oldest football player that's like ever played is like
Tom Brady,
39 or 40.
40. And it's just, one, people don't age the way they used to.
No.
At 40, you were dead hundreds of years ago.
Oh my God.
And now, I mean, my fiance is 40 and everyone thinks we're the same age.
Right.
It's not really necessarily a metric of what it used to be.
You're right.
And there is that idea that, nope, it's too late for you to change your life.
Yeah, but it's really not, and I would love to have her on one day. We'll have to tone back the F-bombs because she really doesn't like them, but we'll have to have my mother-in-law, Barbara, on one of these days, because she is somebody who went back to school much later in life to become a therapist. And she didn't, honestly, as far as I know, like, have a financial need to do that, but she did it because she wanted to, and this was something that she cared about, was passionate about. And now, having worked as a therapist for years, she is, she's our parents' age. I'm not going to say her age out of respect for her, but she is at a point where a lot of people would say, why make a change, But she's now starting a side business as a grief counselor because she had a personal experience with that, and she wants to help other people with it. And that's a great example of a motivation not being reactive.
It's also going to make her better at her job because she has a personal stake in it.
Exactly.
She cares.
She's not just reacting to a situation of, I need a job. Her whole career has been hallmarked by finding ways of helping people. And that's her motivation, at least from what I can tell. It's not like she's ever said it outright, but her motivation is to help people with different things that they struggle with. Her motivation is not just to get enough money to get by and go on vacation, And I'm sure she does perfectly fine. I don't know what their finances are, but I'm sure she's doing great. And she doesn't necessarily have to go and start a side business, but she wants to because she wants to help people. And that's her reason for doing it. We need to evaluate our reasons for doing things. It's not necessarily too late because you're at a certain age. Colonel Sanders started KFC at 60. Not that he's, the bastion of, American entrepreneurship.
Hey, everyone knows who he is.
Everybody knows KFC. Everybody knows Colonel Sanders. I'm not idolizing the guy, but I'm just saying the guy was 60 and he started what eventually became the biggest fried chicken franchise in the entire world. Okay?
And I'm not ashamed. When it's 2 a.m., sometimes I'm ordering me some KFC.
Dude, when that KFC Taco Bell hits and you get the Nashville hot tenders with the Baja Blast at the same time.
The dream team.
My God, I know. I'm just thinking about
I want a
terrible
famous
stomach
bowl now.
times after having those. But but that's the point though, is that like you said, age doesn't necessarily have to be a factor. Just because, like we said in our other episode, things don't have to be permanent. They can be temporary. Even if something is permanent, it doesn't matter if you start it at 20, 40, 70, it still is something that's going to contribute positively and make you more fulfilled. Like so many people that said, I only wish I started this sooner, when it comes to their businesses or their passions in their lives. So I think that if you learn what's important to you and try and figure out a way to do more of that, even if it's just on a part of the time basis, that's what's going to lead you to a life you love living, a more fulfilling life. Like we're always talking about on this show, is trying to find a way to love your life and be more fulfilled in it. Don't just react to the situations that people give you. yes, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But you don't have to open a fucking lemonade stand,
Yeah.
okay? You finish the lemons, you make the lemonade. It's good until you finish the pitcher, and then you go right back to drinking coffee like the rest of us ADHDers, okay? Like, come on. You don't have to open up shop just because that's what you got.
And you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet that might open the doors for you. And it goes back to what I was saying about compromising and just trying to work your way up.
Yeah.
My fiance, Matt, is also an actor. He does more screen than theater, but he was in this play about a year ago that he auditioned for. And he proved himself so damn reliable, so damn good, that now he just gets emails from the director saying, I want you to play this. And then he gets a paying role on stage. And sometimes, like, he got one to play somebody in Dracula, and I'm sitting there like, God damn it, I just went through layers of auditions to get this role, and you just get an email. But at the same time, he did put the work in.
Yeah, I was going to say, he put in the work.
He just put in the work a year ago to show how good he was, and that's the trust he inspired in this person. And that can happen for you. You meet the right people, you go to the right places, you can carve out a path. You prove yourself reliable, you prove yourself passionate, and that goes a long way.
It does. And I think a lot of us with ADHD do struggle with the delayed gratification of things like that. But the older I get, the more I realize that it's not really as far away as it seems. You know, there have been a lot of seeds that I've planted just by trying to be a kind person and have good experiences for people that have come back to me tenfold at later points in my life. You know, a good example is the three people sitting in this room right now, myself, Cass, and Vinny. I met you both through very different things, you know, different jobs, different times in my life. And we've been able to maintain these connections in some way over the years. Vinny photographed my wedding, for fuck's sake. Like,
you did a great job, Vinny, because I've seen those photos.
But, you know, it's like years and years ago, we got along well when we worked at Guitar Center. And then I admittedly have to say, I don't think I sent the guy a text message, you know, between then and you know, wedding time. But I thought of him because, you know, we got along well. I knew he did good work, and I'd seen him over the years doing things. So sometimes these relationships that you build, you never know how it's going to turn out in the end. I couldn't have guessed a year ago that I would be calling the guy for the wedding and for the podcast that we're doing right now. But that's a great example. Or like you and I met at work, and then we remained friends, and we realized that we had connections through the music scene, and eventually figured out we both had ADHD. We worked together again and then left again. And then here we are doing this podcast.
Yep. And for a good year or two, we would just tag each other in memes. And like, that was our way of being like, hey, dude, I'm thinking about you.
Yes.
I thought you'd find this funny. But it was like, that was our communication. And now we're talking all the time, and we're doing this, and we're having these deep conversations. People, I don't believe in fate or anything. So I don't think that people come into your life for a reason per se. But I do think that you should utilize the connections that you have.
You should.
And you shouldn't, you know, just write people off.
And I do also think that you reap what you sow in that regard. Because, you know, if you want to kind of step back and think broadly about this, I do have a lot of specific goals in life. But my overarching goal, and I don't know that I've said this on anything before, either the blog, the TikToks, or anything like that. My number one goal is, I should say, outside of my goals with my relationship, because my wife is the most important thing in the world.
Aww.
But my number one goal for other people is I want to create good experiences for people. I want my life to be one that makes other people's lives better, or at least happier, or make you smile. I don't want to create bad experiences for people. So in everything that I do, I say, will this create a good experience for people? And sometimes just that yes is enough. You know, if I'm doing something that costs me money, that I might not even get the money back for, it's not meant to be a sales thing, but I know it'll make a good experience for people, I'm going to do it. And if you can think broadly about your goals in the way of, well, what do I want to do with my life? I want to create good experiences for people. That gives you a blanket to say, all right, I have ADHD. I could be a filmmaker one week and a car mechanic the next. If you are sticking with your overall value and goals of, you know, for me, creating good experiences, maybe for you it is creating negative experiences. You want to be in stick in the mud. But if you can find out what really drives you and what's actually important to you in your life and figure out, all right, does that exist in my current situation? Is there a way I can get there? You know, if it doesn't exist in my current situation, what's the gap and how can I bridge it? That is the number one question that's going to unlock so much more of this fulfillment we're always talking about in your life. Because the reality is so many of us are inauthentic with ourselves because we're simply reacting to our circumstances rather than saying, this is what I want my circumstance to be. And I'm intentionally, proactively going to take steps to get there. And if I don't make it, then guess what? I'm right back where I was to begin with. And
Yep. On the surface level, reacting is easier. Like below the surface, it's much more difficult.
yeah.
Because you have to deal with the lack of fulfillment. You have to deal with the misery. But yes, on paper, it's easier.
Well, because what you're doing is you're putting a Band-Aid on things.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
You're kicking the bucket down the road. And anybody who has ADHD has eventually been burned by that in their lives. And if you haven't, you're just not old enough yet. You will be burned. It will happen. And again, sometimes we all need to learn that lesson the hard way. But at the same time, the people who have learned that lesson and who are continuing on to fulfillment in their lives have faced the reality of, I need to intentionally do what I want to do, what's going to make me happy on purpose. And that's the biggest difference I've seen between people who genuinely enjoy their lives and people who are miserable. Is those who enjoy their lives, they live their lives on purpose. And those who are miserable, they simply do whatever they feel like they have to for the current situation. And you might just be realizing this, and that's totally cool. I'm not judging you if you haven't, because it took me 30 fucking years to figure it out myself. So I just want you to start thinking about, all right, what would actually make me happy with my life? And does that exist now? And if not, how can I get there?
And like me, maybe you'll have family members or friends or people whose opinions you really value tell you, why are you leaving this job? Why are you doing this? This is a dumb move. You're giving up security. You're going to get paid way less. You're going to have people that say that to you, and you have to trust yourself. You have to be able to say, yep, I respect your opinion, but I'm going to do this. Like, no one knows me better than me, and I'm going to try. And you know what? Maybe you're right, but maybe you're not.
Maybe you're not. And I'm on my phone because I'm looking up. There was a quote about this that I saw on, I think, Instagram the other day. So give me a second. I'm trying to pull it up.
Well,
here.
we all know you're on your phone now, so you don't have to hide it under the table.
No, I guess you're right. But so remember this. Even if you go for it and it doesn't work out, you still win because you had the guts to head straight into the unknown and try something that scared you. And that kind of bravery will take you places. And that quote really hit home for me. So I'll share that as a closing note. I'm Aaron.
I'm Cass.
This has been Fuck the Plan, the ADHD Project podcast.